Hello, Matthias. We are here to speak about your project, to make a kind of assessment, an evaluation, to share some reflections about the project you have been doing last year, basically. Yeah. Can you say something about your project first?
Yes, the project is that I interviewed a number of philosophical practitioners, about a dozen of them, 12, 13, and I interviewed them about, more specifically, the philosophical consultation, what it is. And then I also had the idea, besides just talking to them about it, because it's one thing to explain your work, it's one thing to reason about what you're doing. But I also had the idea that I wanted them to do a consultation with me, so we can also see in action what it looks like when they're working. So it would give an opportunity for whoever watches this, both to have the theoretical explanation of what a consultation is, but also to watch it in practice so they can see for themselves that this is what it looks like. So I filmed this as well, put all of this on a website, and yeah, that's basically the project. To have a sort of investigation into this philosophical consultation, what it is and what it can look like.
Yeah. And where do you think comes from the interest to compare different, let's say, style of philosophical practice?
Well, I've been doing this myself for a while, since I'm a practitioner. I'm doing consultations as well. And I've realized that it's people do it in so many different ways. So there are some different traditions. So within the organization of IPP, we tend to do it in a certain way, but even there, people do it a bit differently. But if you go outside of this organization, you see that there are multitudes of different ways of doing it in. So then I was interested in, well, how can this consultation be defined? Is it even possible to define it? It has to, it needs to have some sort of limits. Otherwise, anything could be a consultation. So I just wanted to explore this and see where can we find anything that all of these consultations have in common that would differentiate it from other types of activities.
Okay, all right. Let me ask you a straight question. Uh, do you think it's just a matter of different styles, or do you reckon that there are different methods?
There are different methods, I would say, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I know some practitioners say that I don't have a method, but I don't trust them. I think they all have some kind of method, and I think we can see some different methods.
And can you describe the main difference among the different method you found in the project?
Yeah, roughly, I would say one method is more the rational logic-based method. You use these rational tools, you conceptualize the ideas of the person you're talking to, you look for contradictions in his speech, you take his ideas and you ask him to create arguments to support them. So it's logic based, it's language based. So it's very much in the Socratic vein. So I would say this is at the heart of it. Of course, it's not just about language, but a lot of it is about these rational, philosophical, logical tools that we used. So that would be one method.
Why is understanding things so important to me? It's worth thinking about the function of why here. And then in the reformulation, why is the desire to understand things so strong in me? Is it functioning in the same way? Or is there some kind of change in emphasis?
Hmm.
Okay.
And another method would be one which is popular here in Scandinavia. I think it was introduced by Achenbach, the German, one of the first philosophical practitioners, which is more conversation based. It's more like you're having a discussion with a friend. So it's very easy, it's very smooth, it's not very confronting. So it's like the one you're talking to is a guide leading you, taking you by the hand, maybe not even leading you, but helping you along the way, helping you explore some things. Mutual exploration of some ideas, some thoughts that you have.
So you described this situation. I asked for an example. I'm just to recap a little bit. I asked you for an example then. Your question was, why is it so important for me to understand things? And I asked for an example, and we have this workshop situation online. And you said a few things about this. Um, you explained the realization, what it was about. And I've asked you, so what was the situation like? You said it was something about fun. It was fun that he was distracted, and the misunderstanding was fun, or was there like a feeling of joy or about the understanding itself?
Oh yes, yeah, both of them. The situation was a bit fun, but yeah, there was a joy in the realization, relief in the realization, because it was something I had been struggling with. Here I thought, oh, maybe I have, the key here to make it work.
Mm.
Joy, yeah, relief, maybe even more.
Mm.
Well, yeah, joy that okay, now maybe there is, maybe I found a way to make it work.
Any other, one way to approach this is because you asked about why, and I'm thinking, well, why is something important? Well, because of its benefits or its uses or the good sides. And now we have a few of those. We have the joy, we have the relief, and we have maybe I said this first, but the obvious potential of just doing things better, of perfecting your performance. Are there any other benefits of this particular instance of understanding?
Okay. So mainly two different methods.
Yeah, and there might be a third one as well. When I talked to Ron Lahav, he identified a third one, which he says is more his way of doing it, which is, and I've seen it in others as well, where you try to find a sort of theme in the person you're talking to, a sort of leitmotif that what is your main issue that's been with you throughout your life. Is it loneliness? Is it money, desires for money? Is it love? There's something which is stronger in you than other things. And we try to find this in our discussion, find what is your core motif. And then maybe use some texts to see if they resonate with you and see how this motif is playing out in different situations in your life and make you aware of how you're functioning based on this, yeah, this melody, this motif that is there all the time, which is influencing how you react in certain situations. So then that could be a third method.
All right.
And I think that the theme, certainly not the only theme, but maybe not even the most important, but an important theme in your life, is that of relating to other people with some kind of distance. You find yourself, it's not a rational choice. You find yourself at some kind of distance from others, not sharing very much. And you mentioned several reasons for this. So this highlights, this emphasizes this attitude, a theme in your attitude, which is again one that keeps distance, that is outside other people. You can interact, but up, not too much. Don't step into my world. And if I do sometimes allow you, it's only when it's the proper time to do it and under my control. So this is a kind of the observer. And like every other attitude, it's partly in your control, but in many respects, it's just part of who you are, wherever it comes from.
All right. And what do you think it makes specifically philosophical about these three different methods you experiment?
Well, the first one would be the investigation of the speech would be philosophical. To make arguments, to conceptualize, to problematize, that would be philosophical.
In a way, it's the critical thinking connected to the language and argumentation, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay.
The last one, what's philosophical about that is that it's connect to some. It can connect to some ideas which are more existential and even more metaphysical. So it's not just about if it goes beyond psychology, if it goes beyond psychological explanations for why you do what you're doing, it's more connected to existential ideas of who you are, what is the core of your being. So also beyond the mere language, the essence of who you are. So
And this is the third method, the Run Lab one, right?
yeah, it is.
Okay.
The
And what
sec
about Achenbach?
Yeah, exactly. That's the one I have more difficulty of seeing the philosophy in it. It can easily turn into just a conversation between two people.
Okay. Since, as you know, I've been in Italian association for many years that was, let's say, that had a method that was based on Achenbach. Maybe let me try to give an hypothesis to answer this question. Maybe something that they think is philosophical is the offer of different idea by the philosopher to the, let's say, problems that the client raise, and in a way is to create a bridge between the knowledge of the philosopher on one side and the specific existential concrete problem on the client on the other one. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's really philosophical, but maybe there is a connection with the philosophical history of philosophical ideas that philosopher offered during the centuries.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, if you employ these ideas, if you insert them in the conversation, yes. So that would add this.
In a way, it's like when you read a book, a philosophical book, that you try to connect yourself with those ideas. In this case, you are not reading a book, you are speaking with a philosopher that is supposed to know different philosophical ideas and then try to do the job that you would do by yourself when you read a philosophical book. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, I know Achenbach himself, he says, I have no method. I do it differently depending on who I'm talking to, but, I
Yeah.
still think you can see something in common in his conversations.
Yeah.
And I think as well, Oscar Brennifier, he would say, I have no method. I just follow reason, but I think you can see a method as well in his work.
I want to ask you if, in your personal experience, you found which method you found more efficient and which one you think is not so efficient, at least for you, because maybe it can change for other people.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, for me, people have different preferences. I prefer the first one, the most, let's call it the Socratic one. Uh,
Which is
if it,
that one that you have been practicing for many years,
yes,
right?
yes, yeah. And if it's done well, yes, I think that's the most efficient one
And
because
why?
it cuts to the core of how you present yourself. You present yourself in speech, in language, and it has the possibility of, cutting out the or exposing the bullshit in what you're saying, the contradictions in what you're saying, and get you out of the stories you're telling and go to the main essence of your ideas, forcing you to clarify your ideas, argue your ideas, give up your ideas if they don't make sense. I think that's very useful.
So you think that the method is the most challenging one, right?
Yes, I think so. But then I think it should be combined with something metaphysical as well and something existential. Otherwise, it can be rather dry and boring if it only works with speech. I've experienced that as well. With some practitioners, they only work with your speech, but they lose you. So it's no longer about you, it's only about the words you use. So it becomes like an exercise in language philosophy and combining or comparing concepts, and it loses touch with why you are there and who you are, and it goes only into the examination of words. So it can be a bit boring, a bit dry if it goes too much in that direction.
What do you think it can turn the first method in a more existential or even maybe metaphysic dimension?
Well, it has to be able to see how your words reflect something about you. Mm. So where you use certain words, you use certain concepts. And why do you use these words, these concepts, instead of others?
Okay.
Well, what does that say about you? Why is it so important for me to understand things?
Okay. Why is it so important for me to understand things? Okay. Yeah. See, so first, I would like to think a bit about your question. Yeah. And is there something in your question that could be criticized? If you want to criticize it, something could be criticized. Well, I'm going to propose there's something much more simple. That's a bit strange. It's the for me.
Me. Okay.
Yeah, no, for me.
For me.
For me. Do you think in general people like to understand things or no?
Yeah, I think so.
So could you have asked why is it so important to understand things?
Yes, I could have.
Unless you're really a special case.
Mm. No, I don't think I'm a special case here. I could have asked that.
But your question puts you as a special case.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
It's funny?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you see already then the contradiction there is in your question?
Yes.
Which one?
I see it. The question reveals this arrogance in me, which prevents me from actually achieving this understanding which I want to achieve.
Yeah, so in your question, we already see that there's something opposite to what you want. You want to understand people, but in a way you look down on them, you're distant from them. It's not forbidden, but that's the way it is. And don't forget, for me, it's not the idea of saying what's bad, what's good, but what is rational, not rational. That's the main thing, and to be conscious of it. So you want to understand, you understand people, but already you place yourself in a position where understanding people is going to be hard.
True.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's funny?
It is fun.
It's funny.
You present something like a problem. Instead of just investigating what is a problem, what does the word problem mean, we go to, let's assume we know what a problem is, but why is this a problem for you? And then you can problematize your problem and seeing it as, a bit of, we can add some Nietzsche here, thinking the unthinkable. What you see as your main problem, maybe it's not a problem. So then it's about the language. You call it a problem. You identify it as a problem, but maybe you can change concept. Maybe it's not a problem. Maybe it's something else. For instance.
So in a way, it's to keep an eye on the entire being is in front of you, and that is revealing itself through the speech, through the answers, and through the argumentations.
Yes.
That's
I
kind
think
of
that's
in turn in a more metaphysical, existential dimension, the consultation.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and there is something that has been surprising you through this investigation you've been doing.
Something surprising is the breadth of it, the width of the different forms it can take. For instance, some practitioners, when you go to them, it's like a coaching session. There was one I was talking to, and she said that my job is to solve your problem. So that's my business. That's what I do. I solve problems. And I came with a problem, and she tried to help me solve the problem. That was the thing.
My interest is really in trying to see if I can transform their problem in an opportunity in a positive way and get to the root of it and really try to solve it.
Why, while some others said, well, absolutely not, I'm not going to solve your problems.
The goal of my counseling is not to solve personal problems. And is this the greatest thing that philosophy can do? To solve your problem between you and your wife, or how to choose a job? Philosophers never dealt with that. Why do you expect philosophy to be good at that?
And some of them, like I said, they only investigate your speech. And some of them, they are more, for some of them, it's like going to a psychotherapist. They want you to tell your story and they listen to you and they let you speak a lot. Yeah, that's also surprising. Sometimes it feels like, okay, you are doing 95% of the job here. You are talking, they're just listening. And with some other people, it's the other way around. They do 95% of the talking and you don't get to say much. So that's also why it was difficult to, or even now difficult to come up with the definition of what is a consultation, since it can be so many different things.
Yeah, yeah. And as you know, I teach philosophy in school, like you do in high school. And the first lessons I give to my new students is about the definition of philosophy. And I propose them like 20 different definition uh, from 20 different philosophers. And it's funny to see that even philosophers, the important and famous one, disagree about what philosophy is. So maybe it's not by chance that also in the philosophical practice there are different method, different styles, different conception. I mean, you can use philosophy to solve your problem, like the one you mentioned before. Why not? Or you can use philosophy to start from the problem and to, in a way, invite the person to think the unthinkable or to meet his metaphysical or transcendent self. Or I mean, there are many different goals you can achieve through philosophy. So I think is an enrichment, this different definition, different relation with philosophy and philosophical practice too.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. Of course, every philosopher believes that philosophy is the best thing in the world. But two philosophers cannot agree what philosophy is. So yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've as well. It would be. I don't like the idea of that this is philosophical consultation. It should be this and nothing else than this. Then it would make it impossible. I think with these limits, and you would have to decide which type should be the one.
Yeah.
So I don't think that would be that would make any sense. As you say, philosophy is such a wide subject. It's not so easily defined as some other subjects. So of course, the philosophical consultation cannot be just one thing either.
Yeah, I have the impression that behind the different definition of philosophy and philosophical practice as well, uh, at the end there is a choice of the person. What do you want that philosophy can be for you and for others? So, for example, for me, at one point of my, let's say, career, I decided that philosophy should be something different than academic style. So I prefer the first method, but I don't think that's the only way to do philosophy. And I think that your project is showing well that there are different possibilities in the philosophical practice field, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're a philosopher, you do the kind of philosophy or the kind of consultation that you prefer. Or if you go to a consultant, okay, you find the one that you like.
Yeah.
But also, I think that there's a problem in this as well. If you're a client, because what you like is not necessarily what you need.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you find something, oh, I like this. Oh, this is easy, this is smooth, but or maybe you avoid the more challenging parts because that's not so comfortable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For example, you said you prefer the first method, yeah, And I know by experience that most of the people reject that method just because it's the most challenging one,
Mhm.
and they prefer more softer approach, yeah, like Achenbach or maybe others.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, because before we focus more on the difference among these different methods, but I would like to know if you recognize anything in common among these different approaches.
Well, the most obvious thing, of course, is that you sit with a philosopher and you come with an issue, something, usually a problem you have, you want to discuss, and you engaged in a conversation with this philosopher about this issue, and you try to entangle it, you try to get to the core of it, to see what it is. Mhm. Of course, this is in a way what you do with a coach, this is in a way what you do with a psychotherapist as well. But on the surface, at least, this would be, what combines all of these. Beneath this, yeah, there has to be some, of course, some philosophical aspect to it. Otherwise, it's not philosophical consultation. But that can be done in different ways, as we've talked about how you apply philosophy in it. But of course, there should be some philosophical aspect if it is, investigation into the coherency of the speech, or if it's connection to some philosophical ideas or texts, or if it's some more metaphysical connection to your being, which borders more on the spiritual dimension. But yeah, you apply some philosophy into the discussion.
Yeah. So in none of the cases, there is a normal conversation, but there is something that is different than the usual day life exchange that we have with other human beings, right?
Yeah, yeah. And even the ones who say that it should be like a conversation among friends, of course, it's not a conversation among friends, because there is a difference between the philosopher and the client or guest or whatever you want to call him. The philosopher has a role to play here. In some way, at least, he is leading the conversation. Here, the responsibility has to be more on him to take charge of the discussion, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And since you mentioned responsibility, I would like to ask you about the different conception of ethics that are related to this different method you experimented in this project.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the questions I asked them, if they thought there are some ethical considerations to take. And more or less, with the exception of one, I think, said that, yeah, there are.
Well, personally, I would say it's not relevant. I'm not a fan of the ethics because
But then most of them, they weren't so clear in explaining what the ethics were. It seemed it was a bit, I think maybe because they take it for granted that they are ethical. So maybe they didn't. I'm just hypothesizing here. Maybe they didn't investigate so much. What is the ethics of my method? What is it to me to be ethical? They just assume that I'm ethical. That's my suspicion, since some of them had some difficulties in explaining what the ethics was. But one thing that came up frequently was that you had to be transparent about what you do. You had to let the person know in advance this is what's going to happen.
So you cannot be strategic in order to be ethical.
Well, at least you have to reveal your strategy to the opponent.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be the ethical thing to do. But I think that's a bit of a strange idea, because that would let you do anything as long as you're transparent. Well, I'm going to kill you, but at least I'm going to let you know that I'm transparent about it. So, but I don't think that's really what they mean by being ethical. But transparency was okay. It was one of the things they mentioned.
And I think a second aspect could be that beside be transparent is at least to be worried about not to
Yeah.
damage the client, to create some suffering,
Yeah.
not useful in the process.
Yeah. I don't think anyone really mentioned this, or not directly, but I think this is what is behind all of their ideas of being ethical, or most, not all of them, but most of their ideas of being ethical. You shouldn't hurt the person. And I listened to Achenbach in another workshop he had, and he said this. He said it specifically, that we as practitioners, we have a great responsibility, because sometimes people come to us, they have tried psychiatry, they have tried psychotherapy, psychoanalysis, it didn't work. They come to us as a last resort, so we have a great responsibility not to harm them. But I'm thinking, if you have this fear of harming people, it's going to be very difficult to do any work with them. If you have this preconceived idea that someone who comes to you is a vulnerable person, and I have to be very, very careful so I don't cause any harm now to this person, I don't know how you even dare open your mouth and say anything, because anything could be, harming. Anything could be damaging. So it's you're putting very strict limits on yourself when you try to be ethical in this kind of way. And I don't really know how you could achieve much if you have this mindset that I have to be very careful about this person. I cannot be harsh with them. I cannot challenge them much. I have to make it comfortable for them. But I think there's a contradiction between having a philosophical consultation, having a philosophical conversation, a philosophical discussion, and at the same time you want it to be comfortable and easy and not challenging. I think philosophy is and should be challenging.
Yeah.
And I know some try to get out of this by saying, yeah, but we are challenging not in the being of the person, but challenging in the intellectual aspect of it. But then you're not touching the being of the person. You're probably not going to accomplish much here.
Maybe this explains also why, in opposition to the first method, at least when it's being done directed to the entire being, there is a lack of challenge in the other two methods. Maybe this fear of creating pain and suffering in the client can explain why they are softer than the first one. What do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think that's it. Of course, it makes them softer. It does. And that's one thing if you want it soft. But I think the problem of having it soft is that it's not going to happen much. Or if it's going to happen anything, it will take a very long time. Maybe with like psychoanalysis, okay, you have to go there 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and maybe something will happen. But if you don't want to have a 2-year conversation with someone, maybe you need to be a bit striking. I know when I was talking to Oscar, I asked him also as well about ethics. And he said, well, yes, there is an ethic, but it's another kind of ethics. It's an ethic of consciousness, an ethics of rationality, an ethics of truth.
Well, but they're ethical consideration, but there's a different idea of ethics. The crucial ethical consideration of Socrates is consciousness. Okay, it's a cognitive ethics, if you want. Yeah? So there are different conception of ethics. Often we think of ethics, I don't know, not hurting people, having compassion for their pain. But the ethics of Socratic ethics is an ethics of reason, an ethics of truth, not an ethics of less suffering. That's a non-issue. Yeah.
Okay, he redefined ethics as being conscious, being rational, know what you're talking about, being truthful.
Parasia in a way.
Parisia in a way. I don't know if I would call this ethical, but he did. But here, I personally, I would prefer to, there is this idea of the sublime. You can have a sublime experience, which is something which can shake you.
Which implies suffering and pleasure at the same time.
Yeah, it can imply suffering, it can imply pleasure, but it's like it's beyond ethics. It's beyond good or bad, and it's beyond aesthetics. It doesn't really care if what you're doing is good, if it's bad, is it beautiful, is it ugly. Well, now you can have an experience which reveals something to you. It's more like it can be, to put it in grand terms, some kind of spiritual awakening. But we've had it. You realize something. It was something strikes you. You have some sort of an insight. And it doesn't make any sense to put it in moral terms. Was this ethically good? Was it ethically bad? It doesn't matter. It's I say this is more important than ethics or than aesthetics. Because there was another practitioner I was talking to, not in this project, it was another occasion, and he said, in my workshops, I want everyone to look good. So he was into aesthetics. But as well, I think if you want everyone to look good, you're limiting yourself. You're stopping yourself from doing some real work. Or if you want everyone to feel good, or if you want to create like safe spaces, a secure environment, all of this, which I think is much of it is nonsense. I think you're never going to get some real experience.
Yeah.
Which of course it doesn't mean that you should hurt people. It doesn't mean that you should be sadistic. That's not the point. If you have this intention, it's good to harm people, then as well you're in an ethical paradigm. So it's more disregarding this and do what is necessary in the moment.
Could we call it transcendence ethics?
Yeah, I would say it transcends ethics.
Okay, it's beyond.
It's not an ethic, but it's beyond.
Okay.
I want to talk with Nietzsche and beyond the good and evil.
Okay. So if by Nietzsche perspective is similar to love, which is beyond good and evil. And philosophy contains love, by the way.
Yeah, you can, why not? You can call it love. Love, truth.
Yeah. The love of the truth, yes.
Yes, the love of the truth.
So in what you said, it comes up that for you to be afraid about creating suffering is a kind of limit for the thinking process, right?
Yes.
So I was wondering which is, from your perspective, the value of the suffering in the process.
I don't know if suffering has a value in itself. I think that would be just the evil twin of the person who thinks that, oh, we have to make people comfortable. The opposite would be, oh, I have to make people suffer so they can feel something. So I wouldn't say that suffering in itself is valuable, but it can have good consequences. It can help you open up to something. It can remove your barriers. It can be an intense feeling. By being a strong feeling, by being an intense feeling, it can get you out of your intellectualizing about things, which is a bit paradoxical because with philosophy, we want to be reasonable, we want to reason, we use rationality. But as well, you can get caught in your rational schemes and you can become a sophist and argue for and against anything. But then the emotional aspect can help you as well to cut through the excess of reason. So I think the emotion and the reason can work together here. So I think a consultation which is too rational will not accomplish much either. Or a consultation which is only emotional, and then you will get stuck in your emotions. But I think both intense joy and suffering can help you maybe become more open to what is happening in the situation and in the process.
Yeah. In my experience, the most transformative consultation I've been watching, I've been experiencing, are also the one that involve you emotionally the most. Yeah, that create you different emotion, included some suffering and some pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, it seems that we could conclude, I don't know if you agree, that the comfort can be a limit for thinking and also for learning.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I think it has to be. a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, do you have any other general conclusion or reflection you would like to share before to close?
Like I said in the beginning, I wanted to both have a discussion, theoretical discussion about the work and also see the work. So it was interesting to see sometimes there is a discrepancy about how people present their work and the actual work they're doing. Seeing how hard it is to follow your own rules. I think a problem is if you're too rigid. Of course, you have some ideas of this is how I work, this is what I want to do, but you cannot become too attached to your own rules either. You need to be able to improvise and step outside of your own method or your own scheme and work with what you have in front of you at the moment. And maybe give some advice if you think it's needed in the moment. Maybe be a bit therapeutical if you think I need to do this right now. So I would say nothing is forbidden. It's not forbidden to create a sense of comfort if you think that will be good for the process in this moment.
In a way, it's very important for the philosopher to be flexible with his own, let's say, rules and ideas of the consultation. Otherwise, it gets more rigid and it affects in a bad way the free of the speech and free of the thinking process.
Yeah. Yeah, it can become mechanical.
Let me ask you a last question because I'm interested in the way you experience what you have done. Because what I liked a lot about the project you have been doing is that you didn't just interview philosopher, but you invite them to practice with you, to challenge you, and to show you directly. So, in a way, you use yourself as an object in this investigation, which I think is really interesting and at the same time is really courageous because you have to. Yeah, you have to put yourself in the investigation process. So I was wondering, how was it to put yourself as an instrument for the investigation? Was it hard? How did you experience this personal investigation, let's say?
Mainly, it wasn't so hard since, when you train to be a practitioner, you are exposing yourself. You let other practitioners do consultations with you. It's part of the training, so you've done it a lot before. Now, of course, it was a little bit different since I was filming it, I'm putting it online and so on, but I was a little bit cautious in the beginning. So I thought I'll choose a safe question. So my question that I used the same question for all the consultations. So the
Which was
question,
it? Can you remember?
yeah, it was, why is it so important for me to understand things?
Mhm.
I think this is a safe intellectual question, but of course it's turned out to be about me anyway, like it always does. So of course there were some moments in some consultations where I was thinking, maybe this is a little too private. I'm not sure if I want to put this on YouTube. Maybe I'll cut out this part.
And did you cut out also?
Sometimes, yeah, not much, but okay, some comments I cut out. I thought, sometimes, okay, I'm exposing someone else here who didn't ask to be part of it. Sometimes, okay, I don't want to share this particular thing with the whole world, so yes, but not much. No, it wasn't much.
Okay, Matthias, thank you for sharing your reflection, your ideas about the project. And maybe below the video, you could share the link for the website where you put on the different interview, the different videos you created, and you can give the information to all the people who are interested in order to watch some of the stuff you have been doing.
Yes. Yeah, I'll put the link. Everything will be online.
All right. Thank you, Matthias.
Good. Thank you.